Entering the bedroom, he closed the door. He removed his clothes and threw himself on the bed in his underwear. He was so desperate to meet you again. It felt like you were his only source of energy. Looking at the ceiling, he imagined you climbing the bed beside him. Laying next to him, he felt you embracing him as he rested his head on your chest. Slowly closing his eyes, he tried to drift in sleep, but he wasn't able to do that. Why aren't you leaving me? I'm so hungry for you, Ryan baby, he said to himself as he groaned. He suddenly got a wicked idea. Wearing grey pants and a black tee, he grabbed his bike keys and drove to your home. Parking the bike in the parking area, he opened the gate and knocked on the door. Your father, who was awake thinking something, frowned. Who it might be, your father thought as he walked towards the door. Opening the door, he found no one. He was confused. What the heck? He said as he examined the surroundings only to find no one. He sighed in frustration and closed the door. Where was Jungkook? He was climbing your window. You were sleeping. It was literally 1 a.m. in the night. Just as he reached your window, he slipped a thin sheet out of his pocket. Inserting it in between the window and the wall, he slid down the lock. As expected, the lock was removed and the window was opened. He smiled as he opened the window and jumped in quietly. He looked around the room. The room doesn't contain many things, but it is cozy. The room was reflecting your taste, which was totally different from his. After checking out the room, his eyes finally fell on your figure on the bed. Gently wrapped in a blanket, you were sleeping peacefully. He took predator steps towards you. Kneeling beside the bed, he leaned you closer to your face. He extended his hands and brought it closer to your face. He didn't touch you because he was afraid he would wake you up. A soft smile appeared on his face as he was looking at you lovingly. Your smile rising and falling off your chest and soft snows made him forget the whole world around him. His hand grabbed the sheets and slid them down your body. You washed up silk top showcasing your waist and your curves smoothly, your pajama pants just hugging your legs added more desire in him. His hand slowly moved down your body, making sure not to touch you. He wanted to stop himself from touching you at this very moment because he wanted to keep it all for himself. He wanted to take you fresh with him, but he wasn't able to control himself. He started taking deep breaths. His hands started shaking. No matter how much he wanted to resist himself, he wasn't able to do it. Especially that waist is gonna be hell for him. After fighting with himself, he gave up. His hand immediately grabbed your mouth and his floating hand grabbed your waist. You gasped as you shot your eyes open. You tried to get up, but he pinned you tightly to the bed. Your eyes were wide open as you looked at him with shock. His hands roamed all over your waist as he squeezed it from time to time. You tried pushing him, but it was in vain. You bit his hand so hard as he jolted from the bed, pushing him so hard. His grip on you was loosened. Taking it as a chance, you grabbed your nearly flask and hit him tightly on his head. You were so furious at him. He was being like a creep. You were already so annoyed with your life, and now he comes in the middle and tries to make it more miserable. You weren't able to go with it all. He fell down and held him with his hand. You were being so fast as you grabbed the umbrella and started beating him, but he is Jungkook, right? He grabbed the umbrella and pulled it towards him, expecting you to fall down. But being delusional, you have already acted in this fake scenario before. Left the umbrella and grabbed the chair and threw at him. Shouting like a maniac, he grabbed the flask again and threw down there. You jolted out with pain as you grabbed it. Your dad immediately ran upstairs as you already opened the door. Taking two to your damp pins, you inserted them in each of his nostrils and tied his hands with your belt. Your father was shocked looking at the scenario. He wasn't able to form words. He looked at Jungkook, who wasn't able to move, and then at your father, who was frozen. I think you need to call the police, Dad. You spoke. Your dad jumped back into reality and quickly called the police. Jungkook didn't move with it because he knew even the police were afraid of him. The police arrived in no time. They were you both, eating an apple with Jungkook groaning. The police were beyond shocked. Excuse me, they stopped as Jungkook snapped at them. He gestured to him to stay quiet and take him. The father got up and walked towards them. Sir, this guy, I don't know his name, but he sneaked into my daughter's room and tried to do something. In defense, my daughter fought with him, he said. Just as they made Jungkook stand up, he noticed the flask. What about this flask? The officer asked with the same shock and curiosity. Oh, this part needed some water. So yeah, don't forget to take this with you too. The father spoke. The officers quickly evacuated him out as he sighed in relief. Come down and sleep with us. You are not going to sleep alone from now, your father said and went down. You smiled, because due to this you got to know your father at least cares for you and your safety. You grabbed your sheets and went down to sleep with your parents. Plopping on the bed beside your mother, you wrapped yourself in the sheets and slept. Your father was worried about you. He wanted to tell you that he was there for you, but he knew it would take time for him to tell you this because of his behavior towards you from all these years. He sighed looking at you. A girl grew up to be strong, Maya. He whispered in your mother's ear and finally drifted back to sleep. On the other hand, Jungkook growled at the police. Take me to my mansion, idiots, he said. The officer wanted to break his neck this time, but stopped themselves. They carefully dropped him in his mansion and drove away. Jimin rushed to him. He was surprised at Jungkook's devastating state. What happened? He exclaimed. Jungkook gave him a death stare. Call the doctor, he said. Jimin was surprised even more. Master Jungkook needs a doctor, he asked. Jungkook threw himself on the couch. He called Jin, the Hyung as well as a doctor. Jimin sat beside him and asked, Who did this? Jungkook looked at the teapot and shot it with his gun. Everything which is beautiful and strong needs to be fragile at one point, Hyung. I need her breaking point. I want to break her so that I can love her in my way. Jungkook spoke. Jimin laughed internally after realizing his current condition was because of you, but he was also worried if he might do anything to you.